স্যার আমরা শুরু করতে পারি।
আমরা শুরু করলাম তাহলে। Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all. So on behalf of Dr. Habib, I would like to welcome you all in today's webinar. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic for the examination, not only for examination, for all practical purposes. Whenever we get a patient with broad complex tachycardia, we always take a deep breath and start thinking what we are going to do next. So I believe we have today two very great speakers, Dr. Ashok Dotto, Associate Professor, and Dr. Smita Kanungo, our registrar, who are going to clarify this topic to us. To help us thinking about the examiner's perspective, we have our very favorite and very respected teacher, Professor Amal Choudhury, with us, who will be giving perspective of examiners. So without delaying any further, I would like to ask Dr. Smita to start her presentation on wide complex tachycardia.
Thank you, sir, for your kind introduction. Respected moderator, panelists, and learned audience, a very good evening. Welcome you all to the presentation on wide complex tachycardia. Before going to the presentation, let's have a look on this clinical scenario. A 60 years aged patient admitted in our hospital with the complaints of palpitation, dizziness. He was hypertensive, diabetic, and dyslipidemic, and was his ECG. At the first impression, this ECG shows that the patient has a fast heart rate and his complex is wide. So the first impression is wide complex tachycardia. What complex tachycardia indicates represents the fast heart rate more than 100 beats per minute, which is associated with a wide QRS complex at least of 120 milliseconds. A wide complex tachycardia may be ventricular or supraventricular. Ventricular tachycardia has a wide QRS because the arrhythmia usually originates below the bifurcation of bundle of His. And the SVT may have a wide QRS complex when there is pre-existing bundle branch block, AVRT, ventricular aberration. This is a dramatic presentation of this ventricular tachycardia below the bundle of His and the SVT having a bundle branch block, accessory pathway, or any aberration. They may have a wide QRS complex. There are a number of pathological factors which are responsible for wide complex tachycardia that include coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathy like hypertrophic or dilated cardiomyopathy, arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, channelopathies like long QT, short QT, Brugada syndrome, catecholaminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. And sometimes in congenital heart disease, especially after repair of tetralogy of Fallot, VSD, or mitral valve prolapse, it may have a wide complex tachycardia. Wide complex tachycardia may also occur in a structurally normal heart disease that include RPOT, VT, idiopathic left ventricular tachycardia. There are three mechanisms only which are responsible for this mechanism. These are the accelerated automaticity, and this means the abnormal automaticity is responsible for less than 10% of arrhythmia. This is usually observed in the setting of ischemia, metabolic disturbance, of pharmacologic manipulation. Another one is triggered activity, refers to pacemaker activity that is dependent on after depolarization. It has two types, early after depolarization and late after depolarization. Usually the tachycardia acute in the setting of acute coronary syndrome, long QT, torsion de Pontis, in these tachycardia of this variety are usually the production for triggered activity. Another cause, which is the most common cause of tachyarrhythmia, is a re-entry mechanism. And this is usually for, especially for SVT flutter, atrial flutter, and scar VT. This is the triangle of Kummel, which shows a vicious cycle between the substrate, autonomic nervous system, and the triggers. Approach to a patient. Before approach to any patient with what's complex tachycardia, it is of course obviously always individualized. That means that depends on the clinical presentation of the patient, and the clinical presentation depends on the clinical heart setting, heart rate, and the presence of underlying heart disease and other medical condition. Sometimes the patient may present with some mild features like palpitation, which is the most common, mild shortness of breath and chest discomfort. And sometimes they may present with some malignant features like syncope, sudden cardiac death, acute heart failure, which may need immediate intervenor treatment without further delay. And some more history should be elicited from the patient, like his age, any prior history of MI or heart failure, any drug history, or any prior episode, any triggering presence of any triggering factor like MI or electrolyte imbalance. And the examination include the cadone on JVP, pulse and blood pressure. It may be recordable or unrecordable, and verifying intensity of the first heart sound. Regarding the investigation, again, any investigation depends on the clinical setting of the patient. 12-beat ECG is the first investigation which we have to take any patient with palpitation or palpitation. And regarding the blood investigation, troponin, CKMB, serum electrolytes, which may give us the features of hypokalemia, hypocalcemia, hypomagnesemia, which can give a clue to torsodipon. Echocardiography is another one, and some second-line investigations like a cardiac MRI, EP studying, especially in the patients with idiopathic VT, are needed to elucidate the cause. Now the differentials. And in patients with white complex tachycardia, first we have to look whether the tachycardia is regular or irregular. And the regular white curious tachycardia include ventricular tachycardia, SVT with bundle branch block, atrial tachycardia, atrial flutter with fixed AV conduction. And the differentials of irregular white QRS include the atrial fibrillation with bundle branch block or aberrant ventricular conduction, atrial flutter tachycardia with very heavy conduction, atrial fibrillation with WPW syndrome, polymorphic VT with normal QT interval, and torsodipon and ventricular fibrillation. Now our main concern is ventricular tachycardia. To diagnose from ECG, ventricular tachycardia, it has some diagnostic characteristic features in the electrocardiography. AV dissociation, capture beat, Buchanan beat, very broad complex, positive or negative concordance, extreme axis deviation, Brugada dosage. Now let's come on to one by one this feature. First, the AV dissociation. And what is this AV dissociation? If the AV dissociation means in ventricular tachycardia, both the atria and ventricle have independent pacemaker. So they contract individually, producing, there is no connection between atria and ventricles. So there is no relationship between VP and QRS complex. Ventricular rate will be more than the atrial rate. This is the AV dissociation. In the ventricular tachycardia, P waves can be spotted in between the QRS complex. This one is circle, one is mentioned as the P wave, and sometimes the P wave may be superimposed upon the T wave, so that you're giving a peaked appearance. Here, the T wave a little bit different from the other T wave. So this is the AV dissociation, which is a diagnostic feature for ventricular tachycardia. Now the capture bit. What is the capture bit? Capture bit usually occurred when the sinus node transiently captured the ventricle in the midst of AV dissociation, and it gives a feature of normal sinus complex. This is the tachy, and it gives a picture of normal sinus rhythm. It means it is the capture bit, another diagnostic point for ventricular tachycardia. Now fusion bit. Fusion bit occurs when a sinus and ventricular bit coincides to produce a hybrid complex. Basically, this is the fusion bit, and the fusion complex can assume any configuration other than the configuration of tachy or the normal sinus complex. This is the fusion complex, this is the tachy, and this is the normal sinus complex. That means this is the captured bit. So it gives a configuration not related with the normal sinus rhythm, neither related with the tachy complex. It's a different configuration. That is the fusion bit. Concordance or discordance. What does the concordance means? Concordance means that our complex will be either all negative or all positive or all negative. Here the R waves are all are in positive in the precordial leads. We have to look in the precordial leads for the concordance. From V1 to V6, all are positive. From V1 to V6, all are negative. But here, some are positive. This is positive, but this is negative. So this is discordance. Discordance is a negative for diagnosis. We can exclude here. But concordance is the diagnostic feature of ventricular tachycardia. Here, the concordance is negative with a very QRS complex is very wide. This is another features for ventricular tachycardia. QRS complex may be more than 140 milliseconds. Sometimes it may be very wide, that is more than 160 milliseconds. X is northwest axis deviation. That means the axis deviation from -90 to -180 degree. Another 2 points, Brugada signs and the Josephson signs. What is Brugada sign? That means the duration from R to S. From the duration from the onset of R wave to the nadir of S wave. At the lowest point of S wave, if it is more than 100 milliseconds, it is known as Brugada size, and it is diagnostic of ventricular tachycardia. And if the S wave have a notch or slur, it is known as Josephson sign, which is also diagnostic of ventricular tachycardia. This is a simple schematic presentation, fusion complex and a captured bit. Now, without this electrocardiographic feature, some other additional factors have to be elucidated from patient's history to diagnose ventricular tachycardia, like the patient's age, having a history of MI, heart failure and a cardiomyopathy, or the patient have any history of syncope, family history of sudden cardiac death, which may suggest the conditions like hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, congenital long QT, Brugada, and arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia. Now, if a patient having ventricular tachycardia, we have to differentiate it from ventricular tachycardia or SVT from aberrancy. We have to follow some steps. There are different criteria to diagnose this. Among them, the Brugada criteria are more accepted. So let's go for step-by-step approach. If a patient comes with a wide complex tachycardia, we have to see the precordial leads. If the precordial leads represent concordance, so the diagnosis is VT. No further analysis is needed. No RS pattern in the V1 VT, and we have already mentioned what is concordance. If not, then we have to approach for the second step. What's that? If the onset of R wave to the nadir of S 100 milliseconds, which have already been mentioned, if its duration is more than 100 milliseconds, it is VT. Again, no further analysis is needed. If not, then we have to go for our third step. If there presence of any AV dissociation, if presence ventricular tachycardia, if not, then we have to move our fourth and final step, the morphological criteria for VT. And for this morphological criteria, we have to look in precordial leads V1 and V6. This is a little bit difficult. For the RBB type, if the morphology is for RBB type, we have to look for V1. What is have to look? If in V1, either the complex is monophasic or biphasic. And V6, if there is presence of any Q wave or RSR ratio is less than 1. If these two combo is present, then the diagnosis is ventricular tachycardia. We have to diagnose ventricular tachycardia. We have to with their presence of the both criteria. If any criteria is not acceptable to diagnose ventricular tachycardia, that means criteria in V1 and criteria of V6 has to be present. So again, this is the biphasic or monophasic QRS complex V1, and any Q wave or less than 1 is diagnostic of VT. And if the patient has the left ventricular bundle type, there again we have to look for V1, V6. In LPP type, we can look either in V1 or V2 and in combination with V6. In V6, we have to search for any Q wave. If there is any Q wave along with presence of any of these, like duration of R wave, duration of S wave, and the slurred or notch S wave. If these presence in both V1 and V6, this is the diagnostic for left bundle branch block type. So just a repetition, any Q wave in V6 plus R wave duration, RS duration, or presence of any notch in the S wave. And this presence of this two combination is diagnostic for ventricular tachycardia. And this is the morphological criteria for ventricular tachycardia. This is the table showing a differentiation between SVT with aberrant and from ventricular tachycardia. While a patient with white complex tachycardia, vagal maneuver will slow the ventricular response, but it will ineffective for the patients with VT. And the clinical examination, which like Cadon wave, first ultrasound, which are identical for the ventricular tachycardia. The ECG criteria has already been mentioned, which are very much identical for the ventricular tachycardia. If these ECG criteria are not present, then it is not ventricular tachycardia rather than any other cause. This QRS bipolarity concordance, discordance had already been mentioned. Onset of R, this is already. This is another algorithm of American College of Cardiology, which is more or less RBB pattern, which has been discussed. Precordial lead concordance. Now going back to our ECG, which has been showed early first. This patient having white complex tachy, and now to diagnose, this is what is the diagnosis? Let's see, this is white complex with all concordance. Precordial leads have all negative concordance. So this only with this concordance we can diagnose this ECG as a ventricular tachycardia. Moreover, here is the presence of fusion bit. It's not rather similar with the ventricular tachy features. This is another ECG. Here the white complex tachy. Here the complex from V1 to V6. There is concordance is absent. This is positive. This is positive. Again, this is negative. So this is discordance. So our first criteria for Brugada, that is the presence of any concordance, is absent here. Then we can move to the next step, that is the duration from R wave to S, nadir of S wave, if it is more than 100 milliseconds or not. If we calculate from here, the duration of R wave from here and the nadir of S wave, it is more than 100 milliseconds. That is, it is more than 2.5 small squares. Another important thing, this is the presence of a P wave. So the AV dissociation. So these two criteria are enough to diagnose this ECG as a ventricular tachycardia. Now there are different forms of ventricular tachycardia regarding on the basis of duration. If the duration of ventricular tachycardia is more than 30 seconds or less than 30 seconds, if the patient associated with hemodynamic collapse, so it is termed as sustained VT. And if it is not, it is termed as non-sustained VT, that the duration will be less than 30 seconds without any hemodynamic collapse and more than 3 beats. Repeated monomorphic VT represents episodes of non-sustained VT that is continuously repeating. And there are some morphological classification, like if the morphology of all the complex are same, it is known as monomorphic VT. If the morphology is not same, continuously changing morphology, it is termed as polymorphic VT. This is another term, that is the VT storm, which means more than 3 separate episodes of ventricular tachycardia in 24 hours, requiring intervention to terminate. This is a picture of monomorphic VT. Here you can see that all the morphology are same here. But in this ECG, the morphology of the white QRS complex is not same. This is one morphology, and these are continuously changing. So this is a example of polymorphic VT. The VT storm, it has been already mentioned, the presence of ventricular tachycardia more than 3 episodes in 24 hours, which need medical intervene. And it is an emergency. The patient has to be corrected for any triggering factor like ischemia, electrolyte imbalance, or any drug. Treatment can be given with a beta blocker, antiarrhythmic drug. Intubation sedation have to be given, and patient sometimes needs hemodynamic support, catheter ablation, or neuroaxial modulation. This is another medical emergency, that is the ventricular fibrillation, which is a very rapid, regular dysmorphic pattern without having a clearly defined QRS complex. This is here, no QRS complex can be identified clearly. Totally a rapid, chaotic, and bizarre contraction, electrical activity. And this is also a medical emergency. And the last one of irregular white complex tachycardia, torsade deep pond, it may be characterized by the presence of a rapid polymorphic VT in setting of prolonged QT interval that constantly changes in a pattern that appears to twist around the central axis. And this kind of patient in a normal sinus rhythm, they have a prolonged QT, which may produce a complex that appears to twist around the central axis. And this type of short tachycardia may have a short duration that may reverse spontaneously to sinus rhythm. And sometimes it may produce syncopal attack or occasionally ventricular fibrillation. It may be due to congenital electrolyte disorder like hypokalemia, hypocalcemia, magnesium, and some drugs are responsible for producing torsade deep pond. And this is the picture of presence torsade deep pond ECG. Here you can see the polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, which is twist around the central axis. And this patient usually, these patients have a prolonged QT. This is the difference between the polymorphic VT and the torsade deep pond, because both have polymorphic features, morphology, but in polymorphic VT, the patients have a normal QT, but in torsade deep pond, patients have prolonged QT. So with this ECG, I'm going to stop over here, and the next portion of the white complex tachycardia and along with management will be covered by Ashok sir. So thank you all for your patience here.
That was such a great presentation, Smita. And actually, for those of you who don't know, Smita has a special interest in electrophysiology, and her today's presentation just went to prove that she has the potential to become one of the greatest electrophysiologists. So keep it up. That was such a wonderful talk. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I also I have also the same expression about her lecture, and I would like to congratulate madam for being selected as the section editor of Asia Intervention Journal from this forum. So congratulations, madam.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Habib. That's so kind of you.
Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
I was late to join here. I also welcome Professor Amol Kumar Chaudhary. He's a great interventional cardiologist and great teacher and great friend of us, particularly my friend. So welcome you. And without wasting time, as Professor Amol Kumar Chaudhary has another program, so I'd like to invite Dr. Ashok Kumar Dotto to start his speech on the management of ventricular tachycardia.
Dr. Habib Rahman, respected teachers and guest panel and all the audience, good evening. And my topic is management of wide complex tachycardia. So actually management of wide complex tachycardia is much easier than the diagnosis of tachycardia. So management depends on diagnosis of the tachycardia. Management of tachycardia is easier than the diagnosis of the tachycardia. That part was talked by Dr. Smita, and that was nicely deliberated, I think, for the juniors students as well as for the fellows. It becomes easier that wide complex tachycardia, how to differentiate it from differentiation between the ventricular tachycardia from other form of tachycardia like SVT or atrial fibrillation with wide QRS complex because of bundle branch block or accessory pathway conduction. Next, management of wide complex tachycardia. This is a very one of my favorite slide. This is axiom regarding arrhythmia. All arrhythmia should be interpreted and correlate with the signs symptoms of the patient and patient's clinical condition and history. Treat the patient, don't treat the monitor. Because sometimes artifact may mimic the arrhythmia, like a straight line in the ECG that is actually asystole, but may be due to loss of chest lead contact or connection. The same way, vibration close to the lead, where the lead is attached to the skin, may mimic the VT or VF. This may happen sometimes in our cath lab because vibration means massaging over the femoral or inguinal region sometimes produce the VT-like fissures or VF-like fissures in the inferior leads because of vibration of the particular area. Sometimes the speed of the recording of the ECG may produce erroneously bradycardia, may diagnose erroneously tachycardia. And sometimes tachycardia in the monitor may be diagnosed because of oversensing of the T waves, because T waves are so tall that it is also recognized as QRS complex by the monitor. So heart rate is actually 70, but the monitor will see that heart rate is on 40. The same way sometimes that may be because of his speed. Sometimes on the ECG it looks like rate is 60, but patient is sent for pacemaker implantation with ECG heart rate 30. So that is also misdiagnosis. So Smita was talking about the ECG criteria, ECG classification, and etiology classification of all the wide complex tachycardia. But for the student, it is very much easier to remember anatomical classification of tachycardia. One is from SA node, other things that comes from the atria, from the AV node, bundle arrhythmia due to bundle branch block and originate
sorry
from
to intervention. Sorry to interruption, Dr. Ashok. There's a black mark on the slide. So can you please reshare your slides?
Yes. It is not seen.
Another claim here.
স্যার আপনার স্ক্রিনের মাঝখানে একটা বড় স্কোয়ার কালো ব্লাইন্ড স্পট আসতেছে, তো তো নুরুল স্যার বললেন যে আপনাকে আবার এক্সিট করে আবার ঢুকলে হয়তো এটা চলে যাবে। অনেকগুলো আপনার স্লাইডগুলো দেখা যাচ্ছে না পুরোপুরি, ডার্ক ব্লাইন্ড স্পটের মতো আসতেছে স্কোয়ার স্কোয়ার।
আপনি ক্লিক করলেই বাড়ছে আরো।
এখন পুরো বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে।
এখন পুরো বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে। আপনি এক্সিট করে আবার এন্ট্রি করেন স্যার, লিভ করে আবার ঢুকে।
অশোক, স্ক্রিন শেয়ার স্টপ করো, স্টপ করে আবার নতুন করে ওপেন করো ফাইলটা।
স্ক্রিন শেয়ার।
স্যার আমি আপনার শেয়ারটা অফ করে দিচ্ছি, আপনি কাইন্ডলি আরেকটা শেয়ার করে দিবেন।
আমি কি আবার আই উইল স্টার্ট ফ্রম দ্য বিগিনিং?
ইয়েস স্যার, ফ্রম দ্য বিগিনিং।
আবারও আসছে।
অশোক, তুমি কি ল্যাপটপ থেকে করতেছো নাকি ট্যাব থেকে করতেছো?
না, ল্যাপটপ থেকে।
তাহলে এটা আসছে কেন?
আমি তাহলে কি এক্সিট করে যাব?
তুমি এক্সিট করো তো, একেবারে
স্যার,
সবগুলো দেখাচ্ছে।
এক্সিট করে আবার ঢুকেন স্যার।
অশোক, এক্সিট করে মূল ফাইল থেকে ঢুকো, আবার মূল ফাইল থেকে।
Amol sir, in the meantime, you can add something as an expert panelist, sir.
Thank you, Tawfiq, and thank you, my friend Habib Bhai. Also, I called him Bhai. Thank you, and also great pleasure to invite me as a panelist. And also, I like to congratulate Madam Fazila Madam ke congratulate করতে চাই তার অ্যাচিভমেন্টের জন্য এই এডিটর হিসাবে এই কন্টিনেন্টালের। It's our pride and very prestigious to hold a very prestigious post to hold from this country. Thanks. I think today's emergency cardiac, as a part of cardiac emergency topics of your institute, wide complex tachycardia dealings is very, very nice. First, I congratulate the speaker just finished the lecture, Smita, Dr. Smita, very nicely present the basic, excellent presentation about the basic things, which is very need for MD student to face the exam, to face the, even when in patient NCCU. Very nicely categorized, very nicely approach how to differentiate it with different type of wide QRS complex tachycardia, how to diagnosis to reach the specific type and etiology is very, very nice and excellent. And বোধগম্য সব স্টুডেন্টের কাছে আমার মনে হয় এটা বোধগম্য করে একটা সিনিয়র টিচার যে আমার লেকচার দেয় সেইভাবে সে দিয়েছে। আই থিঙ্ক ইটস ভেরি নাইস। কোনো কিছু বলার আর নাই, সবই বলেছে, কিন্তু এত মনে রাখা সম্ভব না। পরীক্ষার জন্য কতগুলা keep and common things to be asked by the examiner is the what do you mean by wide complex tachycardia? Already she said যে 100 এর উপরে বিট হতে হবে, ডিউরেশন 100 এর উপরে থাকতে হবে। Whether it's regular, irregular, tell me some irregular complex wide complex tachycardia. Tell me some regular wide complex tachycardia. And sometimes ask as a whole, tell me the common etiology of as a whole wide complex tachycardia. Very nicely he told. I think he is grammatically approach all the wide complex tachycardia. But for exam purpose, every fellows or resident should keep in mind in the commonness of the wide complex tachycardia. From them, they pick up the commonness from every etiology like ischemic, like electrolyte imbalance is very important, like channelopathy, you must mention, but not in the first. Ischemic should be considered first, then according to the some electrolyte imbalance, some congenital, valvular, like this. Everything have been discussed. So, আর আমি একটা কথা লাস্টে বলতে চাই যে CKD patient, practically CKD patient hyperkalemia, hypokalemia is not uncommon. Mild or moderate CKD, আমরা জানি না যে তার hypokalemia হয়ে আছে, quite common. So every fellows should keep in mind, and also every time when they to be asked what are the common causes, they must utter the name of electrolyte imbalance or CKD with electrolyte imbalance. I think আমার মনে হয় এখন ঠিক হয়ে গেছে. Thank you.
Ashok sir is back, I think. Sir, you can share the screen and see what happens. Okay, sir. Now it looks good. Now, sir, it looks good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, you can start from the third or fourth slide.
Sir, third slide থেকে শুরু করেন। হ্যাঁ, এখান থেকে বলেন স্যার।
So classification of arrhythmia. For the student, it is easier to remember anatomically from where the arrhythmia arises. All the arrhythmia that arise from the ventricle, usually white QRS complex, so that is the white complex tachycardia. And arrhythmia that arises from the atria or from the AV node, if it conducted through aberrant pathway, or there is bundle branch block, either left or right bundle branch block, that may produce also white QRS complex. So PT electrophysiological types, already Smita already mentioned. If there is 3 to 5 consecutive PVCs, that is called salvos, non-sustained VT. If it is less than 30 seconds, sustained VT if it is more than 30 seconds. There is pleomorphic and monomorphic VT and torsatility points. Torsatility points, actually this is included in the VT electrophysiologically, but that behaves like VF, means hemodynamically that produce fissures like ventricular fibrillation, but electrophysiologically that is VT. And other terms, sometimes ventricular flutter. There is a term not used actually. If the heart rate is more than 250, sometimes it is called ventricular flutter. There is on term bidirectional VT. That term usually occurs in 2 conditions. One is catecholamine related VT, that younger children, and digitalist toxicity. Here the direction of on QRS complex, I will show on ECG. On QRS complex, direction of QRS complex, if it is positive, in the next QRS complex direction will be negative. So axis will be different from one bit to next. This is very easy to remember the rate of the atrium and rate of the heart rate, 150, 200, 300, 400. For all atrial rate, usually with SVT heart rate 150 plus minus 50, means 100 to 200. For this is for sinus tachycardia. Sorry, this is for sinus tachycardia, 100 to 200. For SVT, usually rate 200 plus minus 50, 150 to 250. And for atrial flutter, 300, atrial rate usually 300 plus minus 100 means 2 to 400. And for atrial fibrillation, atrial rate usually 400 plus minus 100 means varies from 300 to 500. But ventricular rate will be much less because there is AV node that will control the conduction to the ventricle. In case of ventricular fibrillation, rate is the highest. It may varies from 150 to 500. And in case of VT, usual rate is 100 to 250. Again said, if the rate in ventricular fibrillation is more than 250 per minute, sometimes it is called ventricular flutter. In case of slow VT, usually called when the VT rate is 100 to 125. And that must be differentiated from slow ventricular, slow atrial fibrillation. Slow AF usually means when the heart rate is less than 100, that is called slow AF. If the heart rate is more than 100, that is called fast atrial fibrillation. So this is etiological classification. If we see secondary VT, usually secondary to some structural heart disease. Common to condition is ischemic heart disease that may be STEMI, non-STEMI, or even unstable angina. Second is the cardiomyopathy. That may be the ischemic or non-ischemic cardiomyopathy. Ischemic cardiomyopathy is more common cause of VT and sudden cardiac death than non-ischemic dilated cardiomyopathy, and HCM also. And myocarditis, valvular heart disease, when it involves the LV, especially mitral valve prolapse related AMR, aortic stenosis with LV hypertrophy, aortic regurgitation with LV dysfunction sometimes produce the wide complex VT. Congenital heart disease, especially after intracardiac repair. Idiopathic or primary, where the etiology is unknown, comprises less than 20% of the total VT. And most common cause is the arrhythmogenic RP dysplasia. Sometimes it is called RP cardiomyopathy. And this is almost 80% of this group of patients. 80% occurs because of arrhythmogenic RP dysplasia. Other cause is RV-OTVT, that is clinically very much close to ARVD, fascicular VT, and these three conditions, long QT, Brugada, and catecholamine, sometimes may be asked in the examination because it is not uncommon. In our country, it is uncommon because of underdiagnosis, but it is not so uncommon, especially in certain age group of patients, younger age group of patients with sudden cardiac death and history of sudden cardiac death in family. Management of wide complex tachycardia includes medical management, DC shock, that may be cardioversion and defibrillation. Cardioversion and defibrillation must be differentiated. For the student, it is sometimes what is cardioversion, what is defibrillation. Cardioversion means synchronized direct current shock, and defibrillation is asynchronized. Next, management is the EP study with radiofrequency ablation. Sometimes it may be needed. Then for secondary prophylaxis or primary prophylaxis in certain group of patients, ICD implantation. Management and control of precipitating factor or triggering factor. That is very important aspect. Etiological factor management, including coronary artery disease and withdrawal of drugs and other conditions related to valvular or other heart disease, is a part of management of wide complex tachycardia. Then this is the general approach. All tachycardia, including wide complex or narrow complex tachycardia, we can group it into three groups. Group one, that is very sick patient, means patient with cardiac arrest. This is the primary treatment. Then we should work out for further evaluation of the diagnosis and for further secondary prevention. And group two, except in chronic atrial fibrillation, where the rate control or ventricular rate control is the important thing that we should do. Again, this is group of patients needs DC shock when they are hemodynamically unstable. But when the patient is chronic atrial fibrillation with unstable hemodynamics, whether we will give the DC shock or not, that is very important issue. If the patient is on warfarin or anticoagulation and echo proves that there is no LA thrombus, then DC shock may be given. Otherwise, DC shock may produce catastrophes like thromboembolism leading to stroke or thromboembolic manifestation to the other parts of the body. Group 3 is stable patient, hemodynamically stable patient. This group of patient may be treated medically with either IV or oral antiarrhythmic medication. But remember one thing, transition between this stable group, unstable group, and sudden cardiac arrest is frequent, means group 1, group 2, and group 3 is interchangeable. This is the medical management with medication. This is the Vaughan-Williams classification of antiarrhythmic drugs. This is a very difficult classification, but some drugs, especially in class 1, lignocaine, propafenone, these yellow markings and Easter markings are available in our market in Bangladesh. So this drug, at least you should remember, for the student, you should remember this name of this drug, some common indication, some side effect, and some pharmacokinetics of this medication. And class 1 are the sodium channel blocker, class 2 is beta blocker, class 3 is calcium channel blocker, class 3 is potassium channel blocker, class 4 calcium, and class 5 there includes digoxin and adenosine. One thing important here, sotalol includes in class 3 because of its channel blocking, potassium channel blocking effect, but it has got beta blocking effect as well. Propafenone, that is available in our market as rhythmosin. This is called pocket pill in pocket, that is especially used for paroxysmal atrial fibrillation. Lignocaine is a very common medication, usually used for other purposes as an anesthetic, local anesthesia. Procainamide, quinidine are not available in our market. Propranolol, esmolol are available. All the calcium channel blocker are also available. And digoxin, till now, it is very commonly used, especially in patients with mitral stenosis. What are the site of action? This is easy to remember. Class 1 and class 3 acts on atria, acts on ventricle, acts on accessory pathway. Atria, accessory pathway, ventricle. Class 2, class 4, and class 5 means beta blocker, calcium channel blocker, diltiazem or verapamil, and this is the digoxin, adenosine, that acts mainly on the AV node. And these are the common features of all antiarrhythmic drugs. All antiarrhythmics are proarrhythmic, except beta blocker, but sotalol is also proarrhythmic. So why it is not included in the beta blocker group? All antiarrhythmic has got negative chronotropic effects, means that reduces the heart rate. So it is difficult to treat with antiarrhythmic drug when the patient's heart rate is low, especially in atrial fibrillation and others. And all have got negative inotropic effect with one exception, that is digoxin. Class 1 and class 4, these are more negative inotropic than class 3. These are the key points. Sotalol is not available, but it is a very effective drug for control by IV and oral as well. Oral sotalol is available, but IV sotalol is not available in our market. Sotalex, it is available in Sotalex, 80 milligram tablet. And IV preparation very short acting, and it excreted through kidney. So in kidney disease, that should be used very cautiously. On the other hand, amiodarone IV as well as oral preparation is available. If we give 150 milligram IV bolus for 10 minutes or 300 milligram over 30 minutes, that also usually takes at least 30 minutes to act because of its distribution in a wide range of body tissue, and it is metabolized in the liver. So in patients with liver disease, in patients who have got raised AGPT, that amiodarone should be used cautiously. IV lignocaine is rapidly acting. So sometimes we use, especially in patient with ischemic heart disease. In patient without ischemic heart disease, lignocaine is not effective. In patient with ischemic heart disease, ischemic cardiomyopathy, or acute MI setting, in absence of failure, means crank failure, IV lignocaine is very much effective and very rapidly acting because it deposited in the central organs like heart and brain. Amiodarone deposited throughout the body, distributed throughout the body, and takes longer action, and lignocaine especially deposited in the heart. So it is very rapidly acting, and sometimes maintenance for 12-24 hours is useful. And it is effective in ischemic VT. Again, it is important, not in non-ischemic VT. And sometimes amiodarone, either in combination with lignocaine or procainamide, is very much effective in case of VT storm. But always remember, procainamide is proarrhythmic, amiodarone is somehow proarrhythmic, but actually amiodarone is least proarrhythmic than other drugs if potassium level is good. In absence of hypokalemia, amiodarone does not produce long QT syndrome. And regarding myocardial depression, that is important aspect, especially when the patient comes with acute MI or ischemic cardiomyopathy when the ejection fraction is low. Then to reduce the chance of LV failure or to aggravate the LV failure, amiodarone is a better choice. Lignocaine also produces the myocardial depression, but not like that of procainamide and other class 1 antiarrhythmic drugs. Regarding adenosine, adenosine is only effective in AV node. Like ivabradine, it is act on the SA node only. Ivabradine, adenosine act on the AV node only. It has no effect on the ventricle, but sometimes it is useful in RVOTP. And verapamil is useful in only atrial or AV nodal disease, not in ventricular arrhythmia. There is one exception where the verapamil can be used in ventricular arrhythmia is fascicular VT. Otherwise, verapamil is not effective in PVC, VT, or other form of ventricular arrhythmia. If the patient is stable with VT, 4 things we should consider on his hemodynamic for management of VT. 4 things first we should consider on his hemodynamic status of the patient, patient's clinical setting, whether the patient is in acute MI, acute coronary syndrome other than non-STEMI or ischemic cardiomyopathy, whether the patient's ejection fraction is low, medium, or good. And third component is whether the monomorphic or polymorphic VT. If any patient in the setting of acute MI, hemodynamically unstable, and polymorphic VT, immediate cardioversion or DC shock is important. If the ejection fraction is good, not in acute MI setting, hemodynamically stable, we can treat the patient with IV antiarrhythmic drugs like amiodarone, lignocaine, procainamide. For any unstable patient with wide complex tachycardia, DC cardioversion should be given. If it is monomorphic VT, 100 joule monophasic or biphasic is sufficient to convert to sinus rhythm. If it is unstable with polymorphic VT, then it is better to give defibrillator, because in polymorphic VT sometimes in synchronized way, DC shock may not be effective because the R wave cannot be recognized by the machine. And non-synchronized or asynchronous shock is always the treatment in case of VF. And It is also preferable in polymorphic VT, pulseless VT, whatever the nature of VT is, and pulse-led pseudo point is. What are the joule requirement for conversion to sinus rhythm? One is for SVT. This is the lowest joule. Sometimes 25 to 50 joule is sufficient to for cardioversion. Then monomorphic VT and AF around 100 joule, and polymorphic VT and VF may need 200 or even higher joule of defibrillation. At the same time, electrolyte imbalance, especially hypokalemia and hypocalcemia, and also hypomagnesemia, is important in for further prevention and recurrence of VT. And sodium bicarbonate is useful if the patient is acidotic, in case of tricyclic antidepressant and phenobarbital overdose. At the same time, metabolic disorder correction is an important part to prevent secondary occurrence of the VT. VF management, usually it produces the loss of consciousness after 5 to 10 seconds. So all advanced life support should be immediately applied. Otherwise, it will be fatal. So after management, what should be the after management? After initial tackle of VT, repeat ECG after termination of the VT. Do the biochemical investigation, including the electrolytes, sometimes toxicological screening, especially if the patient is on cocaine metabolites, tricyclic antidepressant, serum level of these drugs sometimes important, and digoxin level also. And cardiac enzyme, if the patient's clinical symptoms and signs of ischemia are present, and echocardiography, coronary angiogram after conversion to sinus rhythm to assess the structural or ischemic heart disease, and some cases EP study. EP study is not useful in all cases of wide complex tachycardia, but it is useful in bundle branch block re-entry tachycardia, some cases of idiopathic VT. And sometimes after ICD, if the patient recurrent VT develops, repeated shock may be very much puzzling. So in that situation, radiofrequency ablation sometimes reduces the total burden of VT and frequency of recurrence. Long-term management includes antiarrhythmic medication, ICD, radiofrequency ablation, and etiological treatment that definitively includes the revascularization either by PCI or CABG and avoidance of triggering factor. And regarding surgery, once it was used for ventricular, that was called ventricular arrhythmia surgery in 1980, but with the advance of ICD and ablation therapy, this is abandoned. But till now, if the patient has got aneurysm, ventricular aneurysm with coronary artery disease, this aneurysmal resection, that sometimes the source of ventricular tachycardia, is helpful. So, specific disease pattern, as I have already told, the ischemic heart disease, acute MI is a setting where the arrhythmia, all kinds of arrhythmia may happen. There are 4 conditions where all kinds of arrhythmia may happen. One is ischemic heart disease, including acute MI and non-ischemic or unstable angina. Second is ischemic cardiomyopathy. Third is myocarditis. Fourth is electrolyte imbalance, metabolic, and toxics. And one thing that happens in acute MI setting is reperfusion arrhythmia. Sometimes it may be asked, what is reperfusion arrhythmia? That is accelerated junctional rhythm. Narrow complex at a rate of 70 or 80, this is the accelerated junctional rhythm that indicates reperfusion arrhythmia. PBC, runs of PBC, VT, VF, these are complications of acute MI. There is another term on its primary VT and secondary VT in acute MI setting. Acute MI setting, primary VT should not be confused with as a whole classification of VT. As a whole classification of VT, primary VT or idiopathic VT is arrhythmogenic arteritis dysplasia, channelopathy, and others. And secondary VT when it happens in the ischemic heart disease, when it happens in presence of ICM, in presence of valvular heart disease, that is secondary VT. And here the secondary VT in acute MI setting is when the patient has got left ventricular failure or electrolyte imbalance, that is the secondary VT. After acute MI, revascularization definitively is the has got important role to prevent the ventricular tachycardia. But at the same time, beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, or ARB, and now ARNI, combination of ARNI and valsartan, then aldosterone inhibitor, and recently empagliflozin, glipozin, and dapagliflozin. All 4 medical management should be included all patients whose ejection fraction is less than 40 after acute MI. Beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, ARB, or ARNI, mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist, EMPA or DAPA. Patient with IHD and sustained monomorphic VT. Coronary revascularization sometimes is not sufficient alone. This patient sometimes may need ICD implantation. After ABI, for primary prevention of VT, indication is less than 30% ejection fraction, and that should be at least 40 days after acute MI, or 3 months if the patient is revascularized either by PCI or CABG. And class 2 and class 3 heart failure symptom. If the patient don't have any heart failure symptom, then only indication if the ejection fraction is 30. So some case history. This is a patient 55 years old ischemic stroke, having high lateral MI as evidenced by ST elevation, Q wave, and Q wave inversion in the lateral leads. This patient has white QRS complex, that is the PVC. If you look, this is sometimes called interpolated PVC, means RR interval is regular, and this PVC does not interrupt or intervene or does not delay the subsequent QRS complex. So this is called interpolated PVC. RR interval is same, and PVC is in between to normal QRS complex. So this is interpolated PVC. So this is a quite benign condition. But if you look at the clinical scenario, patient has got old ischemic stroke, high lateral MI, ejection fraction around 40, and history of several episodes of loss of consciousness. So that should not be taken easily. And this patient was admitted in our hospital in CCU. Next ECG shows this is the sulcosa PVC. And if you look at the nature of the PVC, on PVC, second PVC, third PVC, 3 different morphology. 3 different morphology that indicates this PVC is coming from 3 different sites. So that is very dangerous, polymorphic, precursor of polymorphic VT. And subsequent ECG of the same patient and developed this type of patient become pre-syncope and syncope. So DC shock is the option in this scenario. This is another patient with anterior MI. Patient developed VT, STK was not given. And here there is no option for amiodarone, lignocaine, or beta blocker because this patient with acute MI, extensive anterior, definitively LV is poor. Acute MI that is in the setting of ST elevation. So if you see confusion regarding white complex tachycardia, if you have see any feature that is suggestive of MI, definitively that should be treated as VT because in the setting of acute MI, SVT with aberrant conduction is very, very rare. VT is the common arrhythmia in acute MI. This is another patient with ischemic cardiomyopathy. He has got CTO in the LAD, LV aneurysm, ejection fraction was 35%, recurrent palpitation and syncope, and he was an advocate in the Supreme Court. And this patient will be benefited with surgery of the LV aneurysm and revascularization. But MPI there was no viable myocardium. So surgeon refused to do the surgery on the aneurysm only. So ultimately, this patient was on ICD. Until now, the patient is doing good. Now, RBOT PVC, arrhythmogenic RV dysplasia and RBOT PT. These are the two common conditions. And PVC, most of the cardiologists encounter this kind of PVC. Inferior lead, it is positive. That is coming from the RBOT. And LPV pattern. LPV pattern means it's coming from the right ventricle. Inferior lead, positive PVC that indicates it's coming from the RV outflow, means superior surface. And this arrhythmogenic RV dysplasia is a progressive disease. Fibrofatty tissue replaces the right ventricular outflow tract. Usually present with atypical chest pain, fatigue, palpitation, syncope. And sometimes it may involve the left ventricle as well. And epsilon sign, though it is present only in 50%, this is the diagnostic. And this is autosomal recessive with 100% penetration. It happens in the adolescence only. Then it can be treated with beta blocker, sotalol, amiodarone. But in high risk group, ICD is the treatment. Radiofrequency ablation is not effective because it is a progressive disease. There are many focus of PVC and VT, so it is difficult to ablate. Idiopathic OTVT that occurs more common in female. In ARVD, that's more common in male, younger male, and here it is more common in female, but it is benign condition. Sudden death is very rare. And ARVT and RVOTVT. ARVT is more dangerous. It is sudden cardiac death may happen here, male preponderance and family history, and it needs ICD implantation. On the other hand, RVOTVT is relatively benign condition, does not need ICD, only medical management is sufficient. This is on case history. 50 years old male, atypical chest pain with recurrent loss of consciousness. Holter monitor shows some PVC with few runs of PVC. TMT was equivocal. MRI of the brain was normal. EEG also done, that was normal, and that was neurological consultation. LV was normal, CAG was done, that was normal. And after 2 months of CAG, patient again come back with history of loss of consciousness. Then we review all the ECGs and echo, and that shows there is epsilon wire. And echo shows there is RV dilatation and RV dysfunction. So that was RVOTVT. And fascicular VT, sometimes it is misdiagnosed. It is, other name is Bell-Hassan's VT. This is the VT that.
Sorry for interruption. Already 1 hour crossed. So
okay. So this is, I am going close to it. This is the fascicular VT that looks like SVT with RBB. So it is misdiagnosed most of the cases as SVT with RBB, right bundle branch block, and it is treated with verapamil. But fortunate that this group of VT is very much sensitive to the verapamil for termination of the VT as well as for secondary prevention. Sometimes it may be asked 15-year-old boy come to you with recurrent loss of consciousness, especially during exertion or emotional excitement. Definitively, seizure epilepsy is the differential diagnosis, congenital long QT syndrome, and catecholamine-related polymorphic VT. This tertiary point is already Smita talked on congenital electrolyte imbalance and drugs. Tricyclic antidepressant is a very notorious drugs, and toxic herbal sometimes may produce long QT and tertiary pointis. And this is very important tip regarding the long QT. If you see RR interval and QT interval, approximately if the QT interval is more than 50% of the corresponding RR interval, it will be considered as long QT syndrome. In general, more than 450 milliseconds in male, more than 470 in female, corrected QTC is called for long QT. This is the long QT, which produce the tertiary point. This is another case in our CCU. That patient came with recurrent unconsciousness, was on beta blocker amiodarone that produces the complete heart block and with junctional rhythm. And this patient was on temporary pacemaker, and when the temporary pacemaker rate was 60 or 70, patient developed recurrent VT. But when temporary pacemaker rate put at 90, patient was all right. Subsequently, we did the dual chamber pacemaker to this patient and was on antiarrhythmic drug. Till now, the patient woman is coming for regular follow-up. Regarding treatment of QTC, for congenital long QT syndrome, beta blocker is the treatment. But if it is acquired related to drugs and other, beta blocker should not be used because beta blocker reduces the heart rate and produce tertiary points. So in that case, sometimes pacemaker for acute condition with keeping the pacemaker rate at 90 or 100 is helpful. This is the biphasic that occurs in catecholamine and digoxin toxicity. If you see, this is the PBC with positive deflection, next PBC negative deflection, next one positive, then next one negative. This is called biphasic PBC. That is very much characteristic for CPVT or catecholamine related polymorphic VT and digoxin related VT. Another condition, Brugada syndrome. That is the other condition we have talked, long QT and RVOT VT that occurs in exertion. Here it happens during sleep. I will not go in details. Brugada syndrome, ECG is characteristic and ICD is the main option for the prophylaxis with low dose quinidine. If frequent PVC or frequent VT happens even after ICD implantation. So here I like to end my slideshow. VT storm already been talked. With this, I like to thanks everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashok Dutta, for your elaborate presentation on management of VT. So before I'm going to the expert panel, I would like to ask some questions raised by the audience. One of the question is, can atrial tachycardia cause wide complex tachycardia?
Yes, atrial tachycardia, atrial fibrillation, even sinus tachycardia, SVT may produce wide complex tachycardia if there is pre-existing LBB, pre-existing RBB, or rate-related LBB or RBB developed during tachycardia. And other conditions, sometimes that may produce wide complex tachycardia if there is accessory pathway in presence of atrial tachycardia.
So another question is role of Berici criteria in diagnosis of VT.
Yes.
Is there any
Roll up.
Verici criteria?
Actually, I don't have any idea regarding that criteria. Even I actually don't remember, try to remember, but I cannot remember the other that is criteria for VT. Yeah.
Another question is,
If anyone have got the idea, just we can share it.
Verici criteria? Any
the-
anybody panelist?
Actually, I don't have the clear conception, but there is among the two criteria, Verici criteria is on the lead of AVR. If the presence is in, it differentiate the on the basis AVR. If there is a R in a wave, initial R wave in the AVR lead, it is diagnosed as
Verici is the AVR. Yes, AVR. There is AVR criteria. Only the AVR sometimes.
Habib bhai, থ্যাংক ইউ ফর নাইস প্রেজেন্টেশন। আমি একটু ক্লোজ করছি। আমার ওই যে 8:30টার প্রোগ্রামটা আছে তো, সরি। ম্যাডাম কি আমার
যাওয়ার আগে একটা আনসার দিয়ে যান। পরীক্ষার হলে অনেক সময় একটা ইসিজি দেওয়া হয়, যেটা হোয়াইট কমপ্লেক্স ট্যাকিকার্ডিয়া। জিজ্ঞেস করা হয় স্টুডেন্টকে, হাউ উইল ইউ প্রসিড টু ম্যানেজ দিস কেস? সো
এটা হচ্ছে হাউ টু ম্যানেজ ইকুয়ার্স কমপ্লেক্স। এখানে আমরা যখন বলি তখন আমাদেরকে ইকুয়ার্স কমপ্লেক্স শিশুতে একটা দাঁড়ায় একটা পেশেন্ট নিয়ে সে থিঙ্ক করবে এবং রিক্যাপিচুলেট করবে যে আমি শিশুতে এই পেশেন্টটা কিভাবে ম্যানেজ করতাম, কি টার্গেটেড হিস্ট্রি নিতাম, কি এক্সামিনেশন করতাম, তার পালস, বিপি আর কি জিজ্ঞাসা করতাম, হিস্ট্রি নিতাম, কি জিজ্ঞাসা করতাম, ইসিজিতে কি পেলাম, তার কাছে কোনো রিপোর্ট আছে কিনা, কি এক্সিস্টিং তার সিকিউরিটি আছে কিনা, এগুলো আমরা সব, তারপরে তার ইলেকট্রোলাইট ইমব্যালেন্সের কোনো প্রেসিপিটেটিভ ফ্যাক্টর আছে কিনা, এগুলো আমরা দেখে আমরা এভাবে প্রসিড করে তারপরে স্ট্যাবল আনস্ট্যাবল আমরা জানি যে ভাগ করি। তারপর ডিসি শট লাগবে না ড্রাগ, আমরা ড্রাগ দিয়ে ট্রাই করতে পারি, কোন ড্রাগ উইলবি অ্যাডিনোসিন দিয়ে ট্রাই করবো না অ্যামিওডারন দিব, কোন ড্রাগ বেস্ট হবে। এবার আমরা প্র্যাকটিক্যালি আমরা পরীক্ষার হলে পেশেন্ট যদি উত্তর কোথায় করে সেটাই ভালো হবে। একটা পেশেন্টকে সে সামনে রেখে সে মনে মনে করবে যে আমি একটা পেশেন্ট ডিল করছি, এই আর কি। ফর ইনভাইটিং মি, ম্যাডামকে আবার ধন্যবাদ আমার ইয়ে থেকে কনটেক্ট আর ধন্যবাদ। হাবিব ভাই, অশোক, তোমরা আমাকে ইনভাইট করেছো সেজন্য ধন্যবাদ। আমি একটু লিভ করছি।
থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ।
Thank you.
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাডাম, থ্যাংক ইউ।
প্রফেসর বদিউজ্জামান স্যার ইজ হিয়ার।
হ্যাঁ, আমি আছি।
স্যার, সে সামথিং।
থ্যাংক ইউ, Presentation দুটোই excellent presentation by Dr. Smita Kanungo and Dr. Ashok Kumar Datta. দুটোই presentation I learned a lot. আসলে আমি I recapitulated many things I forgot, and ভালো লাগছে। Both the lectures are excellent. আর আসলে nothing more to add. Especially Dr. Smita was classical lecture. It was a classical lecture, including everything in, and I think all the not only the students, also all the attendants who attended here has learned a lot from this. Thank you. And white complex tachycardia is really a problem in the emergency situation, and it's very difficult to decide what to do if you are not very smart enough to decide. Sometimes, so this guideline is given how to manage and how to approach a patient with white complex tachycardia. I think you can put this in a graphical pattern in emergency and in CCU, so the medical officers can always look at this flowchart and they can remember how to approach this. And thank you, Dr. Ashok, and thank you, Dr. Smita Kanungo, for your excellent presentations. Thank you.
And Dr. Divan Bonik, sir.
Okay, thank you, Habib bhai. I have some comments in this year for the students. A question is commonly asked that in the exam, what are the pathognomic sign of VT? You should say two things. One is the AV dissociation and capture or fusion bit. No other things you should utter in the exam hall. These are the two pathognomic features of VT. And another thing is commonly asked, if you say lignocaine is used in VT, then the next question will be answered by maximum old examiner. What is the complication of giving lignocaine?
Yes.
Acutely. and this is convulsion. You should know this. I think most of the, I have asked in our CCU many times, this should be remembered by everyone, that lignocaine causes convulsion. So convulsion, so lignocaine is now not the class 1 drug for VT management. Thank you all.
Dr. Mir
আর
Nasser Uddin Ahmed,
জিমানের কোশ্চেনটা কমপ্লিমেন্ট করি যারা হচ্ছে লিগনোকেন দিলে কনভালশন হয়, দিয়েই দিল কনভালশন হইলো, ট্রিটমেন্ট কি, ওয়ান অফ দ্য ক্লাসিক্যাল ট্রিটমেন্ট কি, এটা বলতে হবে, জানতে হবে। যে লিগনোকেন দিয়ে দিল কনভালশন হচ্ছে, হাত পা টুইচ করতেছে, হাত পা নাড়তেছে, পেশেন্ট টুইচিং হচ্ছে, আর ক্লাসিক্যাল ট্রিটমেন্ট হচ্ছে আইবিডাইজিপাম।
আইবিডাইজিপাম, ইয়েস,
আইবিডাইজিপাম হচ্ছে ক্লাসিক ট্রিটমেন্ট, এটা জানতে হবে। দিয়ে ফেললে যদি কনভালশন হয়, ট্রিটমেন্ট হচ্ছে আইবিডাইজিপাম।
স্যার আমি আরেকটা জিনিস অ্যাড করতে চাই স্যার এখানে, যে যেহেতু ভিটির ইয়েটা হচ্ছে, when I was a student of diploma in cardiology in NICVD, one of our great teacher Jalal sir explained us how to diagnose wide complex tachycardia in a monitor. He said that with due respect to him, he said that in a monitor, wide complex tachycardia differentiating from VT to SVT is very much easier than seeing an ECG, because if you stand in front of the monitor, you see this, it is coming, it is stand for 5 minutes and it is almost all the time regular. It is almost SVT. It is almost SVT. If it is some sorts of irregularities found in the bit, it is VT.
one of my question to Dr. Ashok Datta. One patient is going on VT. So would you like to do 12-lead ECG in that situation?
Yes. Just I can tell you one history. 45 years old man from Saudi Arab. He came to me with VT heart rate around 100, 105, 105, 110. So he was sent from Saudi Arab to Bangladesh for cardiac treatment. That patient was hemodynamically stable. I did the echo, I did the angiogram for that patient. Angiogram was normal, and subsequently it was diagnosed as monomorphic VT, and Dr. Mohsin did the ablation of that VT. So if the VT is stable, you can do the 12-lead ECG, number one. But in certain circumstances, suppose a patient with acute MI, a patient with ICM LV ejection fraction 25%, better not to take the 12-lead ECG, because if you delay for few minutes, the patient will go into irreversible state, degenerate into VF. So better not to take the 12-lead ECG. So depending on condition of the patient, hemodynamics of the patient, clinical diagnosis of the patient, and at the same time, nature of VT. If it is monomorphic VT, it is well tolerated. If you see that the VT morphology is PJD, polymorphic, so this group of patients rapidly degenerate into ventricular fibrillation, and ventricular fibrillation degenerate into asystole. So this group of patients should not be considered for 12-lead ECG.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Tawfiq Shahriar Haq.
Habib bhai, thank you. Actually, today I returned home early to listen to this very important topic. And I'm so happy that I did so, because it was 2 wonderful lectures. Just like Bodiuzzzaman sir said, I recapitulated a lot and I learned a lot. And I'm sure our doctors who are students in cardiology or those who are working in CCUs will be benefited very much in their coming days. Thank you. And I'm really grateful to the 2 speakers. Thank you.
Possibly this lecture is the last lecture before ensuing Eid vacation. So hopefully we will start after Eid. So Professor Fazila Malik, madam, with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah, would you please conclude?
I am with you. Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you to both our speakers. As Tawfiq, Professor Bodiuzzzaman, and others have said, I would also like to reiterate that we were privileged enough to listen to 2 great lectures. We all learned a lot. And I would also like to say what you just now told us, that we will not be having any sessions during the month of Ramadan, and only after Eid, fingers crossed, if the COVID situation is also better, inshallah, we hope to restart after Eid our regular classes. So thank you for a great moderation, and we all enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. With this, we would like to conclude today's session. So hopefully we'll be safe amid the peak of COVID situation. So lots of our friends, colleagues, and relatives are affected. So wish you all the safe living. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And inshallah, see everyone after Eid, inshallah.
Thank you.
Inshallah.
So, bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye.
Allah
Allah Hafiz.